Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for attending our webinar today on PPP loan forgiveness and tax breaks for businesses. My name is Sasha Preston-Suni, and I work with Chug CPAs LLP in our Los Angeles office. Many businesses are trying to manage the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic right now. Luckily, there is a lot of relief available for businesses with PPP loan forgiveness, generous tax credits, and other tax benefits. Today, our excellent panel will provide an overview of these forms of relief and how you can take advantage of them. If at any time today during our presentation you have any questions, please feel free to enter them into our Q&A chat box. A great panel of tax experts here today to talk to you about their knowledge. We've got Hansa Patel, Senior Tax Accountant and CPA in our Los Angeles office, Hema Mehta, Senior Tax Accountant and Team Lead in Atlanta, Georgia, and Nicole Patel, Accountant in Atlanta, Georgia. Now let's get started. Hansa, could you give us an overview of the second round of Paycheck Protection Program funding?
Thank you, Shasha, for the introduction. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us for this webinar. On December 27, 2020, Consolidation Appropriation Act 2021 was passed as a law to provide an opportunity for eligible hard-hit business to borrow a second PPP loan. So there are some eligibility and the amount of a loan which has been changed. So for eligibility, entity should be in operation as of the February 15, 2020. Previously received the first draw of PPP loan, will or has used the full amount of the authorized use only. Number of employees should be 300 or less. Headcount does includes the full-time and the part-time employees. 25% reduction in the gross receipt between the comparable quarters in 2019 and 2020. Amount of loan. So amount of loan is 2.5 times of average monthly payroll cost up to 2 million. And the borrowers with the next code begins with the 72. Mostly restaurants and the hotels are eligible for loans up to 3.5 times of average monthly payroll. Borrower can choose to calculate the monthly payroll based on the 2019, 2020 or 12-month period prior to when the loan application is made. Average monthly payroll is subject to the max of 100,000 paid to the employees on annualized basis. So this is about the overview of the payroll protection program loans.
Thank you, Hansa. The Consolidated Appropriations Act, or CAA, expanded PPP loan forgiveness rules. Hansa, could you explain the new PPP loan forgiveness rules that are available?
So in order to eligible for full loan forgiveness under a CAA Act, it requires the borrower to use at least 60% of the PPP loan proceed for eligible payroll cost and 40% of the proceed for eligible non-payroll cost over a cover period of 8 weeks to 24 weeks following the loan disbursement. Borrower can qualify for a forgiveness of PPP loan, including full principal amounts plus the accrued interest on the loan. So these are the some loan forgiveness rule which has been added by the CAA Act.
And Hansa, what is the process like to apply for PPP loan forgiveness?
So process to apply the loan forgiveness, borrower can apply forgiveness once they have used the loan proceed for which they are requesting the forgiveness. It can be applied anytime up to the maturity date of the loan. It is important to remember if borrower do not apply for a forgiveness within 10 months after the last day of the cover period, then loan payments are no longer deferred. Borrowers will be required to begin making loan payments to the lender. So these are the new process for the application of PPP loan forgiveness rules.
So which non-payroll expenses are eligible for forgiveness, Hansa?
So some with the CAA Act, there are certain costs which has been allowed now for to eligible for the forgiveness. So covered operational expenditure like a payment for any business software, cloud computing services, product or service delivering, tracking of a payroll expense, human resources, etc. Another cost they have allowed is a certain property damage cost, that the cost related to the property damage due to the vandalism and looting occurred in 2020. Covered supplier costs, expenditure made by the borrower, those are essential to the operation of the borrower. And covered some worker compensation protection expenditure, operating or capital expenditure to facilitate the adoption of business activity of the entity to comply with the requirement established by Department of Health, CDC, guidance issued by the state and the local government during the period beginning on March 1st, 2020. So these are some eligible non-payroll expenses which has been introduced under CA Act 2021.
That's some really exciting news. Thank you, Hansa. So which additional which additional payroll costs are eligible for PPP forgiveness under this new act, Hansa?
So under CA Act, the additional payroll costs such as a group insurance payment for vision, dental, disability, life insurance are allowed to forgive under the new act. So these are the new payroll costs they have been allowing under CA Act to apply towards the forgiveness.
Nicole, are expenses paid with PPP funds tax deductible?
Thank you, Sasha. Yes, the expenses that are paid from PPP are tax deductible. It varies from state to state.
Thanks, Nicole. The employee retention credit has greatly been expanded by the CAA. Could you tell us more about the ERC, Nicole?
So the employee retention credit was introduced and it is expanded, which is known as Consolidated Appropriation Act, also known as CAA. That it is a refundable tax credit for employee wages paid by business who has been financially impacted by COVID-19. The new CARES Act, which is also known as CAA, has changed the qualified wages allowed for employee retention credit. Previously, it was allowed to claim 5,000 per employee per year. However, with the new act, employers are allowed to claim 70% of the qualified wages plus the cost of healthcare benefit with a maximum of 7,000 per quarter per employee. It will expire on June 30th, 2021.
Which businesses are eligible for the ERC?
The businesses that are eligible for ERC, which have been partially or fully under suspension of operation, or the businesses which has 20% reduction in revenue compared to the same quarter in 2020. Previously, this requirement was for 50% reduction in revenue compared to the same quarter in 2019. Due to this change, many more companies are eligible for ERC. Businesses businesses that did not exist in 2019 may also be eligible if they use a comparison to claim 2020 credit. Employers with 500 or fewer employees can claim the credit even for employees who are working starting January 2021. It is available. The partial or full suspension of business requires meaning that a company was fully or partially affected by government shutdown order. This condition is clearly met if the business wasn't allowed to open due to state or local order, but you may still be partially affected even if you're an essential business. A business that has a loss in 2020 can also qualify since this is a payroll tax credit. Even companies with tax losses can still get some cash flow from the credit and it is refundable. The only thing regarding this is the company has to has to keep everything in a documentation.
How exactly can businesses claim the ERC and still get their PPP loans forgiven?
PPP borrowers can claim the ERC retroactively to March 13th, 2020. It has to be the employers has to maximize 40% non-payroll expense for PPP forgiveness, determine wages that can be applied to ERC by quarter, apply remaining wages during covered period that were not used for ERC to PPP forgiveness. Setting aside that definition of wages is different for both purposes. You have to think about time periods. You have flexibility in your PPP forgiveness, so you can consider in which quarters might you have qualified for payroll credit first, either from a shutdown or gross receipt decline, and use that period for the ERC. Also, you might have more than enough wages for PPP forgiveness even when using the same period. So you have to carefully account for that and have documentation that the wages used for ERC are not the same wages used on your PPP forgiveness application.
So the Families First Coronavirus Response Act, or FFCRA tax credit, was recently extended through March 31st, 2021. Hema, can you tell us a little bit more about this tax credit?
Sure, Sasha, thank you, and hello everybody. So the FFCRA tax credit was expanded until March 31st, 2021. This is to reimburse employers dollar for providing this relief to their employees. However, there is an exception. If you had already provided an employee with the COVID relief portion, which is the 80-hour coverage, that can only be done one time. So that's not eligible to be used again. However, if you have an employee that is taking off time or needs to be able to take care of their child because they're not able to go to school, you can actually tap into that again for the current year if your business is working per calendar year. So the businesses that are eligible are businesses with fewer than 500 employees, if they received paid leave for reasons related to COVID, and like I mentioned before, the maximum for an employee who has COVID is 80 hours, which is 2 weeks worth of pay generally, or 10 weeks for an employee who is taking off the time to take care of their child.
Thanks, Hema. What should businesses be on the lookout for when it comes to business meals in 2021 and 2022, Hema?
There's some good news. So in the past, meals and entertainment were only 50% deductible. However, now they will be 100% deductible. So you will get the 100% expense for 2021 and 2022. This includes in-office meals, meals taken during business travel or while attending seminars. The meals included as taxable compensation to an employee or independent contractor, meals that are used or that are given for office parties or team building events, and client business meals if the taxpayer is present. Please maintain a separate expense category for the employee social meals, as those are also 100% deductible.
There is some exciting news for employers who deferred their payroll taxes. Hema, could you tell us what that is?
Yeah, sure. So the deferred payroll taxes is back in August, the president had issued a memorandum that allowed employers to defer employees' payroll taxes from September 1st, 2020 to December 31st, 2020. The employers were required to increase the withholding of the employee's pay and to pay the deferred amounts between January 1st and April 30th of 2021. If you did not pay by April 30th, 2021, you would be subject to penalty and interest. However, under the new CAA Act, the repayment period for the deferred taxes has been extended to December 31st, 2021.
Thanks, Hema. So the CAA also changed rules for net operating loss deductions. Can you tell us a little bit more about the new rules for businesses?
Sure, Sasha. So the big difference for the net operating loss deduction is that previously, you were not able to do a carryback of the losses. So for example, if there was a loss incurred in the year 2019, you wouldn't be able to take it back to previous years. However, under the new CARES Act, you can now take that back to a 5-year period. So this may benefit clients who previously were paying a higher corporate tax compared to now, since the corporate rate was higher. So it's definitely something for clients to look into and see if they would qualify and how much, and they will get that tax paid back as a refund. So you can do carryback losses earned in 2018, 19, or 20 up to 5 years back, and 100% of the net operating losses can be deducted from prior years. For further information, please contact your CPA to see if you are eligible for this refund.
Thanks so much for that explanation, Hema. Well, that brings us to the end of our presentation today, but we do still have time for some Q&A. If you haven't already, please feel free to enter your questions into the chat box and we will answer as many questions as we have time for. It looks like we have received a few questions already. Our first question is, are businesses formed in India eligible to receive the PPP loan?
Shasha, I'll take that answer. So certain foreign owned or controlled US businesses are eligible to apply for a potentially forgivable loans. Employees needs to be work on in United States. And the second thing, they need to follow the affiliation counting rules. So for PPP first round 500 and second round 300, they can work with their CPA and see that whether they are qualifying or not.
Thank you, Hansa. Our next question is also related to PPP loans. Someone is wondering, should we wait to apply for our forgiveness for the round one loan, or are they accepting it with the new rules already?
So it doesn't matter if your bank is accepting, then you should go ahead. There is no harm in waiting. You can go ahead and apply for a forgiveness.
Thank you. This next question is related to the ERC. If we're looking for the 20% or more reduction in our gross revenue, do we have to compare the same quarters, or is it okay to compare different quarters from the 2 years?
Sasha, I can take this. So basically the way the 20% reduction works is in 2021. Your business should have a reduction in gross revenue of 20% from 2019. It has to be compared with the same quarters that you are trying to compare in 2021.
Thanks, Nicole. This next question is also related to the ERC. This person says, our company has been working from home since March of 2020. Do we still qualify for the ERC?
Yes, you can still qualify for ERC as long as there is a payroll. There is a payroll, and they have employees that are doing payroll.
Thanks, Nicole. This next question is related to PPP loans. What documentation do I need to show to prove that there has been a revenue dip of 25% or more in two particular quarters?
So initially, if you are applying for a PPP loan below 150,000, the bank is not asking you right now to provide any documents. You can put the documents when you are applying for a forgiveness for a second row of PPP. But you can do that when you are applying, you can present them the financial statement comparable. It has to be certified by the preparer of the financial statement, or you can provide them the tax return copies. Bank statement will also work.
Thank you, Hansa. This next question says, does paid sick leave count as an approved payroll expense for loan forgiveness for the PPP loans?
Yes, it does count.
Thank you. Another person is wondering, can we apply for a second EIDL loan?
The second EIDL loan, you have to EIDL loans are still available. It is just subject to your revenue and the credit limit. So you need to check with the SBA department. Thank
you, Hansa. This next question is, what are the minimum requirements to receive a PPP loan?
So minimum requirement, there is a one-page form they have introduced. If you are like a less than 150,000 PPP second round loan you are requesting, it just has a basic information about the average monthly payroll cost and what base you are calculating and the signature document. So if it is a less than 150,000, is pretty much one-page simple form.
Great, thank you. This other person is wondering which documents are required for the PPP loan, either for less than 150,000 or more.
Less than 150,000, basically, as of now, they are just asking the 941, the quarterly filed application. But if you are requesting more than 150,000, then you need to prove the 20% revenue reduction, which you can support with the financial statement comparable or the bank statement. They are asking for what base you are calculating the average payroll cost. So either you can base it on 2019 or 2020 average payroll. You have to show them the calculation. So that's about the requirement for the loan they are requesting.
Wonderful, thank you. This next question is, can we apply through a bank or a third party for our PPP loans?
We generally suggest the client that you can go with the same bank where you apply the first round of PPP loan, but there is no rule. You can go through the different vendor also for the second PPP loan.
Thank you. This next question is, for PPP loans round 2, can we use profit and loss statements prepared on an accrual basis to apply?
The PPP, to show the 20% reduction, they want to see the gross receipt. So gross receipt goes with the whatever deposit coming into the bank. So you need to show it to them on a cash basis.
Thank you, Hansa. This next question is wondering, can we receive multiple PPP loans from different sources?
No, you cannot receive the multiple PPP loan. You can only have PPP loan 1 and 2, but from the only one vendor, because the approval goes to the SBA department. So they, if you already have a loan, they would verify that you have a loan.
Thank you. This next question is related to the ERC. Is the ERC applied to the federal tax returns?
So I can take this. ERC is not applied on federal tax return, but it can be completed on Form 941, which needs to be done quarterly.
Thank you, Nicole. This next person is wondering, how exactly do I qualify for ERC in 2021?
So to qualify for ERC, you have to compare the revenue that is from 2019 to 2021. So the reduction needs to be 20%. The 2019, it needs to be compared in the same quarter.
Thanks, Nicole. This next attendee is wondering, is it possible that we can switch to another bank for our second PPP loan?
Yes, you can try with a different bank. There is no problem.
Thank you. This next person is wondering, what if I had to lay off some of my employees and I couldn't hire them back? Can I still qualify for PPP loan forgiveness?
You can, the forgiveness amount may be reduced based on the number of the reduction. So there is a safe harbor rules. There has to be calculation done by your CPA to see how much you can apply for the forgiveness. So 25% reduction, it's okay under the safe harbor rule, but more than 25% reduction, then there are certain formulas needs to be calculated, and you need to give the forgiveness amount will be reduced by that amount.
Thank you, Hansa. This next question is for Nicole. Is there any deadline to apply for the ERC in 2021?
ERC needs to be completed every quarter, so it has to be done quarterly for quarter 1. It needs to be done before April, and for quarter 2 it needs to be done before June.
Thank you very much for that. Hansa, how does the SBA calculate my average monthly payroll when they are calculating my PPP loan amount?
So say example in 2019, your whole year payroll may be the $10,000. So $10,000 you have to average it with the like a $12,000. Let's take it in the simple way. So $12,000 is whole year payroll. So divide by 12, gonna be 1,000 per month. You have to multiply 1,000 into 2.5. So that gonna be the max PPP loan you can apply, like $2,500.
Thank you, Hansa. This next person is wondering about the requirement of 300 employees limitation per location for the PPP loan. This person works for an IT staffing company. They have more than 300 employees under one EIN, but those employees do not work from one location. They work at end client locations. How does that work for PPP loan eligibility?
So with the one same EIN, nowhere wherever your employees are working, still they are their employees. So they're gonna count as a full-time employees plus the part-time employees as a one, as a company, the whole numbers of the employees. You cannot exclude the employees just because they are working on a different client location.
Thank you, Hansa. This next person is wondering if we take out if we take out PPP loans twice in the first and the second draw, can we still use the ERC for the time between the covered period of the end of PPP 1 and the beginning of PPP 2? Is that possible?
Nicole, you want to answer this question?
I can take it. So yeah, so you can, you are eligible to take the ERC credit as long as the PPP loan forgiveness amount, payroll that was used, and your ERC payroll don't overlap. So you are eligible, but once again, once you contact your payroll provider, they can give you an exact calculation based on what your payroll was for that particular quarter.
Thank you, Hema. This next question is, if both my first draw and second draw PPP loans add up to over $2 million, is it guaranteed that my company would be audited?
They said that they're gonna audit more than 2 million, but as of now, we don't have a clear instruction from the SBA.
Thank you very much, Hansa. This next person is wondering, we used 100% of our PPP loan on payroll only. Can we still qualify for full loan forgiveness?
Can you come again, Shasha?
So this person, they spent all of their PPP loan proceeds just on payroll costs. They did not spend it on any non-payroll costs. Is that okay for forgiveness?
Yeah, that's okay for forgiveness.
Great, thank you. This next person is wondering, I have 5 employees. Can I still apply for the PPP loan?
Yes, you can apply. It doesn't matter how many number of employees you have. Means you need to have employees. That's about it.
Great, thank you. This next person is wondering, I am an independent contractor working for myself, and I also have an LLC. Can I qualify for the PPP loan?
On a Schedule C, you can apply based on the Schedule C form. You can apply for a PPP loan.
Thank you. Can a real estate developer apply for a PPP loan if the company's primary business is to buy properties which are fixer-uppers and remodel them for sale or rent? Do they qualify for a PPP loan?
If they have employees and if this is their business model, they can go ahead and apply for a PPP loan.
Great, thank you. Okay, our next question is, can an entity apply for a PPP loan in the first draw for the first time, but its payroll started in June 2020 and it was registered in the year of 2017?
So for a second PPP loan, the entity has to be in the operational as of February 15, 2020. Then only they can apply for a loan.
Thank you, Hansa. Is the 941's comparison enough for a 25% reduction in revenue?
Not a 941. You need to compare the bank statement, like your gross receipt, like a sales for the 25% reduction, not the 941.
Thank you very much, Hansa. Okay. Let's see what other questions we have here. This next person is wondering about the combination of the PPP loan and the ERC. If we got our PPP loan in May 2020 and we fully used the loan, can we still apply for the ERC?
So I can take that question. Yes, you can apply for ERC if you have excess wages that weren't used towards the loan forgiveness. So if you used, let's say you had $100,000 payroll and the loan forgiveness was $60,000, then the $40,000, or you use $60,000 for the forgiveness, then the other $40,000 can be used for the ERC, as long as you, for 2020, you have the 50% reduction in revenue, or for the first and second quarter of 2021, you have a 20% reduction in revenue compared to the same quarter in 2019.
Thank you so much, Hema. This next question says that we used 100% of the PPP loan for payroll, but we were not able to retain all of our employees. Can we still qualify for full loan forgiveness?
You need to follow the safe harbor rules. 25% reduction is a safe harbor rules, but if you have laid off most of the, like a 70% of the employees, then based on the FTE calculation, the loan amount going to be reduced, the forgiveness amount.
Thank you, Hansa. This next question is, what is the last date to apply for a PPP loan?
This second PPP loan going to close on March 31st, 2021.
As long as the funds are available.
Yes.
Thank you very much. So this person said, I know you mentioned that for the simplified loan application, we may not need to submit documentation about how we spent the loan proceeds, but we should keep this documentation on hand. Which documentation would you recommend that we keep on hand for this?
So we would recommend the payroll, then you can utility, mortgage, interest payment, whatever the documents you can see that eligible payroll cost, 60% you can show it to them as a proof, and the 40% if you are spending towards the non-eligible payroll cost, then you can keep all the documentation to verify.
Thank you, Hansa. This next question is wondering, do rules about tax deduction apply to the first draw PPP loans?
Yes, it does apply to first draw of PPP loan.
Thank you. We're getting close to the end of the questions that we have received so far from our attendees. If you have any additional questions that we haven't covered yet, we do have a little bit of time left, so please feel free to enter those into the chat box. This next question is wondering, when do I need to apply for forgiveness for my first round PPP loan?
I think the forgiveness applications are available through the lender to apply for it. So we would suggest apply it as soon as possible.
Thank you. This other person says, because of ADP's error, we applied the lesser amount and our PPP1 loan amount was forgiven. Can we apply for the balance remaining?
Yes, you can apply for the balance remaining.
Thank you. This next person says that we got a PPP loan the first time and our revenue went down 20%. Is that enough for us to apply for the second round loan?
No, you need to show 25% reduction of the revenue.
Thank you very much, Hansa. This next person is wondering, can you elaborate on the exclusions between the PPP second draw loan and the employee retention credit?
Could you repeat that again?
This person is wondering, can you elaborate on the exclusions between the PPP second draw loan and the employee retention credit?
So the only thing that's excluded is you just have to use the appropriate payroll in each forgiveness portion, right? So if whatever wages you used for the PPP loan forgiveness cannot be reused for the ERC credit. However, there is the possibility of only using that 60% to maximize for your PPP forgiveness and maximize your employee retention credit.
Thank you very much. This next question says, can we rehire laid off employees now to qualify for full forgiveness of the PPP loan?
Yes, you can rehire the employees that were laid off.
Okay, thank you. This next person is wondering, we applied individually last time for the PPP loan, and a few banks suggested we should do the same thing again instead of as combined group companies because the partners are different. What would you suggest?
The PPP loan should be applied under the company, not as a single individual, unless you are a Schedule 3 employees.
Thank you very much, Hansa. Okay, feel free, please, to enter any additional questions you have into the chat box. We have a few minutes left here. I'm just checking to see what additional questions we might have here. Hansa, related to the PPP loans, do we have to provide our tax return for 2020?
You need to, not now. If you are applying less than 150,000, they are not requesting. And even with the like more than 150,000, you can provide them the financial and the bank statement to justify the 25% reduction of the revenue. Maybe at the time of forgiveness, they will request a copy of a 2020 tax return.
Okay, wonderful. Well, that brings us to the end of our Q&A section here. Looks like we don't have any additional questions, but if you do have additional questions that come up to you, feel free to send us an email to info@chug.com, or you can email one of the presenters listed on the screen. We want to thank you so much for joining us today. We have live webinars each week on Paycheck Protection Program loans and other COVID-19 resources for small businesses. So please visit our website at www.chug.net to register for our upcoming webinars. We also recommend subscribing to our YouTube channel, Chug LLP, to get great business content every week. Thank you so much for joining our webinar today, and we wish you a safe and happy week ahead.